gonna go a little dark, okay? That
I was like, we're already dark.
We can take it out. But that table was rocked like how we're gonna talk about your world getting rocked.
That was good.
Okay.
That was good.
Okay. Hi guys, my name is Shrads.
And my name's Rita, and this is
Almost There?
Question mark?
Why did I stutter? I don't know why. I thought we flipped and got it wrong, but I think we did great.
Yeah, we were good.
Yeah. But before we get into it, like, comment, subscribe. We're on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and all of your other favorite podcasting platforms. Hit the notification bell, and we're on Instagram at
ALMST there.
Amazing. Thank you so much for being here, and let's get into it.
Let's get into it. Okay, so in light of it being October, and in light of it being Breast Cancer Awareness Month, we thought that we can talk about some personal experiences that we've had with breast cancer. So I don't really know how to start it.
Well, do you want to start what happened overall?
In 2020, when I was 25 years old, I found a lump on my, it's so hard to not make a joke, but it's really not funny at all. I was going to say breasticle or like something like that.
That's okay. If that's what you want to say and that's what how you want to talk about it, that's completely fine.
Okay, so I found a lump on one of my breasticles, and I was like, whatever, it'll go away, it's not a big deal, whatever. And also the age is a big factor. Like at that time, you know, you don't really think it could be anything. So then I let it be for about like 3 weeks or so, and it wasn't really going anywhere, and I was trying to like push it away, and I was like, oh my god, it's workout injury. Nobody gets a workout injury on your boob, really. But I thought maybe it was. And then I went to, well, at the time, because it was COVID, I had called my physician, and then she basically just asked me questions, and she said, well, let's get you an ultrasound. I did the ultrasound, and the ultrasound came fine, actually. And then after that, I was like, hey, cool, we fine, you know. And then she said, well, let's just, like, to confirm, let's just do a biopsy. And I was like, girl, what's you on about, you know? And then she was like, no, let's just, like, confirm. And then I basically went and did that. And at this point, I didn't really tell anyone that I was doing this, because it was just like, you know, it wasn't any, like, I didn't think it was anything. And I was like, let's not like get people worried. Went and did my biopsy. And then afterwards, basically, I found out after that it was breast cancer, and it was stage 1 at the time. So that's the first Stage 1 is the first stage of, you know, when it's starting to grow. Yeah, and then after that, life just got confusing and fuzzy. And then I told my family and stuff. And it was like a really, like, obviously it was like emotional, and it was confusing, and everyone was like scared. And yeah, it brought up a lot of different emotions and stuff. But at the end of the day, it was also, my process went by fast in terms of like the medical system in Canada. I know a lot of people have had their own experiences on how they've kind of dealt with it. But for me, it was pretty fast. At the time, though, they start, you know, talking about many different things. Like they start talking about fertility and, you know, how this could impact that, because you basically get into a, what's that called? Oh, clinical menopause. And so because of the drugs that you're taking, like I had to go through chemotherapy, so they told me that this would happen and that it would probably affect just fertility and stuff like that. So they said, well, do you want to freeze your eggs? And, you know, I was 25. I wasn't really like, yeah, I can't wait. It was more just, I'd have to wait until, at the time I was told I'd had to wait until I got my next like period cycle, basically. And that would push me too much, I think, because I was at a point where I had to I had to get started pretty quickly because it was pretty aggressive and it was growing pretty fast. So I decided not to do that. And then, they start talking about, well, you need surgery, you need to like go and talk to this like plastic surgeon, and you need to go talk to all these different people, and you're getting all this information. And at the time, because it was COVID, no one was allowed to come with me to these appointments. So I kind of was just like talking to these people on my own, and I didn't know what the hell was going on, obviously. So I still had a good team and I still got through things pretty quick. But yeah, basically I did chemotherapy, and then, in that, there's a lot of different physical things that you go through. There's a lot of emotional stuff that you go through. Like physical is like your nails start changing color, you start losing your hair. I'm not really going into too many details, and I don't know, I don't know what to talk about.
It's however you want to talk about it. I remember when we were talking about it recently, something that you mentioned was that you felt like, you mentioned it briefly here too, that your process was so quick that it's not very normal for that to be that quick. And you said that somebody within that process literally felt like an angel, and you thought that would have been a different situation if she hadn't done what she had done. Yeah. Do you want to elaborate on that piece?
So basically my family doctor at the time, I'd never met her before and I never met her after. She was assigned to us, she came to our clinic, and then you just are assigned to a new family doctor. And, she was the one that I spoke to initially, and then after she sent me for the biopsy and stuff like that, after that I never talked to her again, and I found out she went on mat leave and she left right after. I have heard many stories where people say that, well, if you're young, let's say it's not in your family history, then they won't even take it that seriously, and they just say, let's just wait a few months or something, and then you'd be okay, or we'll come back to this, we'll revisit it. But the problem is, if you're waiting a few months, and if it is something like that, then it becomes way more serious, and who knows what could have happened, right? So I believe that she was, it's really important to have a really good family doctor, and I think I was really lucky for that, and I never saw her again, and I never met her, I never talked to her, anything like that, but she was really helpful to me in that process and in me even determining what I needed at that time. So that was, I got really lucky with it. But if you're not lucky enough to have that, then you should be taking your health more seriously, and you should be asking questions, you should be following up, you should be the one that is on top of it, because no one else cares about your health like you should, and no matter how young you are and all of that. And I think that's why I kind of wanted to talk about it, because not many people in my life know about it anyways, unless you were there during that time, you probably don't know that about me, and I don't really talk about it, mostly because I don't want to be seen as that person who that's who I am, because I'm much more than that. But it was, so I just think it's important to talk about it, because no matter what age you're at, anything can happen. And this is just one scenario, but there's so much more that can happen too, right? And being in tune with your body and understanding what's going on with your body and knowing when it's time to ask for help and really push for that help is important.
Yeah. I think it's crazy that you have to advocate for yourself for so much in situations like this. There's so many things, I think, in our health system, as much as I'm so grateful that we're not paying for it how other countries are, and we have a lot more resources than other countries do. I think that also comes at a little bit of a cost, because people feel the need they have to exaggerate which is so crazy, that they have to exaggerate their pains, or they have to exaggerate what their life and what they're going through consists of, just so they can get a meeting with somebody, or just so somebody can listen to them and just be okay, fine, something is wrong, let's do an additional test. It boggles my mind that there are people or doctors who are just you're being silly, or you have what's that thing where you're you have a phobia of getting sick or whatever, you hear it and then you're oh, I have that, it's an actual thing. But it's crazy that the doctors and people think it's okay to tell you that. And I think we convince ourselves sometimes too that like it's fine, and like you said, you were like, I'm 25, like this won't happen to me, like it's not whatever. And I think and you weren't, knock on wood, and are not somebody who gets like sick often, or you don't have like health problems, like it's not something that it just literally came out of left field, like it wasn't something normal. So especially when something like that happens, like you never think like, oh, it could be that, because it's such a drastic and such a big thing. And I think it's just so important to be like, to check, like do your checks, like even men, like testicular checks, like you got to be doing all these things. Otherwise, like you're not gonna like find these things, and these things need to be caught early. I think that's another big thing.
Yeah, for sure. And the earlier you catch it, the better chances you have of like dealing with it and it not affecting your life for like, you know, as long as it does. And it's also for like recurrence, right? And that's I guess like if people are dealing with it now and stuff like that, it's more, you know, you might feel like you don't have people to talk to, or you might feel like you don't want to burden people with your problems and what you're going through. Like for me, for example, I was like, I want to hear about other people's lives, and I want to like, you know, talk about them and stuff like that, and not have to like think about my own stuff. Because I mean, when you get off the phone, you're kind of back to your own life, right? Like, or like in my case, because it was COVID, I didn't really see people except for my immediate family, which was my parents and my brother, and then my sister-in-law after. So in all of that, like, you know, for me, I'd rather like get away from it. So I would always like push other people to talk about their things or whatever it was. So that was my process of dealing with it. I'm not, that wasn't like healthy or anything, but that was the way I dealt with it. And actually, even after, I didn't really, you know, like I haven't talked about it with anyone outside of whoever was already there. I mean, I've talked to a few people now, but not that many still. And a big reason for that was because I wanted to stay away from the space for as much as I could, because I didn't, I think it just comes back to that point of like, I don't want this to be my only thing in life, even though it isn't, you know, and it wasn't ever, and it really isn't for anyone. Even if you're like in it and you're like, you know, talking about it with your people and stuff like that, it doesn't make you feel like, it doesn't make you weak or anything. But that was my thought process through it all. And yeah, just whatever process you have, just have it and do whatever you need to do to get through that time, because after that time, then there's much more to life, and you get to take care of yourself more, and you get to love people more. You get to like look forward to so many things in life. So yeah.
But I remember going back to how you were like, I'm okay, everything's okay. We had so many big family calls with like everybody on the line, just for her to be like, no guys, I'm okay. Like I'm okay. Like I'm literally okay. Like, and it was not like her saying that in every call, but you know that like she was putting that on just to make sure everybody else was okay with her being okay. Yeah. And it was, yeah. It's wild. I love you, by the way. Just want to say that.
There are many different parts of this where, like, I felt a lot of grief. And, like, if you're someone who's, like, you know someone who's going through it, or if you are the one that's going through it, there's a lot of different parts to the grief part of it. Is that you lose a lot of parts of you that made you, like, for me, that made you a woman, right? It's you lose your hair, you lose that, you know, like your nails start turning into different color. You can't really put like nail polish on. You can't like do, you know, girly things, or like you are essentially losing your breasts, right? And at that point, there's so many different feelings around it that you won't know exactly what to you won't. It can be hard to kind of get out of your head about these things. So it's normal to feel those things, and I'm not gonna like say, oh, it gets better. Like, even it's been a while now, right? Since all of that has happened, there's still times when something will just hit me out of nowhere and it'll be a trigger, and then I won't understand where it's coming from. But then now I understand where it comes from. But it also teaches, well, at least it taught me that there's much more to being a woman than just the physical attributes of being a woman. Being a woman also, I think we have more empathy for a lot of people in a lot of situations in the world. I think we have a lot to, like, give our families, and in terms of, like, just support and kind of, I don't know, just emotionally being there for people. And there's, work, there's still career, there's still so much more to us than just that stuff. So eventually, maybe I will even get there where it just doesn't affect me, but I'm sure it always will. And I'm happy for it to be that way, because I believe that that was a reminder for me to kind of check on myself and to kind of be like, this doesn't make you, but it doesn't make you, and it doesn't break you either. Like, you're still going to continue being who you are. You're still going to continue working on who you are. You just now have to work on your I was going to say insides, but
I was literally when you said inside, I was like inside. Internally.
Internal
self.
Yeah. Like, you get to work on that stuff more. And I took it as a way of, I wasn't happy with how I looked externally. So what I could do at that time was work on who I was on the inside. And there was a lot that was missing on the inside for me. And so that was an opportunity for me to get there. So even to this day, one of the lessons that I think I'll always take with me is, if I'm feeling a certain way, to not just disregard it. I think it's like, take in what you're feeling and then do whatever you need to do. Like, go through your process with it. Feel it fully or don't feel it fully. Like, be like, have grace for yourself. Have grace for the people around you. Don't judge anyone's situation. You never know what they're going through. I met so many people. Like, I went to this amazing summit, and I was able to, this was the first time I kind of actually, like, went into a space where I was surrounded by people who were affected by breast cancer. And it was heavy, but it was so good. It felt nice to be able to connect with people and understand and know that, everyone has such different paths of, like, life in general. Like, your life could be good now, but in 10 years, who knows what's going to happen. Like, I think life can be short, but also it can be long. And in that time, you need to be able to make connections. And some of the people that I met there, like, I hope that I'll always have a connection with them, and it's just feeling like you're part of a community can help you through the process too. So try to find groups where you can just join, and whether it's giving back or just sitting and just listening, or, whatever the process is, just go through that. And I think for me, the lessons are always like, don't take where I'm at in life right now that seriously, because at some point this was a blessing that I was asking for. Yeah.
You also, something to keep in mind and something to, like, touch on is that, like, you didn't feel this way, like, after it was over. Like, it wasn't like you were 27 and you were like, I'm ready to talk about it and stuff like that. And I think that's something also that's huge. Like, it's okay if you don't want a community at, like, right away, or it's also okay if you literally need people in that moment in, like, 2 seconds, and you're like, I need to speak to somebody, and finding the resources for that. Like, you're at your own pace. And, like, I think the reason that you are the way that you are is because, like, or the reason it took you so long is because you're also not a person who asks for help. You're not a person who, like, does all those things or, like, seeks, like, you're just like, everything's okay all the time and everything is so great and I'm gonna look at the positive side of life and that kind of stuff. And I think when you wrapped your head around, like, this is still good, like, talking about it and having these conversations are still good, that's when you were ready for it. And it's okay if you're not ready for it right away, and it's okay if you're ready for it 10 years later, and it's okay if you're never ready for it. And yeah. I've learned so much from you, by the way. You're a cool person. No, but really. But yeah. Yeah.
Don't be ashamed of it. Ever.
Yeah. Do you think you were ever?
No, I just didn't want it to be that's what they're looking like. I didn't like the pity aspect of it.
Your defining factor.
Yeah, I didn't want someone to look at me and be like, oh, poor girl, you know, don't do that. But it was more just, I think in our communities, and I think in Asian community in general, it can be something that you're ashamed of, your family's ashamed of. Like, there's so many, like, I've heard of so many stories now where a lot of parents don't know how to support their kids through all of this. Like, they don't want to be part of it. They don't show up to meetings or whatever it is. You know, I can't imagine that, like, how hard that must be to go through. So, just, there's a lot of shame that comes with something like this, and I don't really understand why. Like, I don't get it, but you know, as much as you can, try to find people that you don't have, when you're around them, you're not going to feel ashamed of it. That's not, that it doesn't define you. It just doesn't, like. And I also think, like, you know, there are points, especially in like the South, sorry, I can take this, especially in like the South Asian culture and stuff like that, for a girl, if you're going through something health related or whatever, it might be seen as there's something wrong there, you know, and that looks bad on fucking, what's it called? What are those? The rishta, like the rishta process, okay? If you're like part of that and then like people find out, I mean, it doesn't happen very frequently or anything like that, but I've, you know, seen that, and I've like heard that, you know, from people that like, oh, well, because of your situation, like it might not be that you can find someone, and that's not true. But yeah, so just there's a lot of shame that's affiliated with it. So and that sucks, and we should change that, and hopefully we can do something to change that. Yeah.
I think you do kind of, like, I think everybody does by, like, just talking about it and getting an understanding of it. Because at the end of the day, it's just a sickness, right? Like, that's all, like, not just a sickness, but it is your body just being sick. Mm-hmm. And why are we, when people get old, they get sick. Like, it's not, that's just how life is, right? It's a part of life. So, yeah, it's pretty crazy. I wonder if it's other communities, too, where it's just, like, a South Asian thing.
Yeah, I don't know.
And we're not saying this is everybody, because obviously it's not. Yeah. But there are groups of people who are very, like they don't want to deal with it or whatever the case may be, and that's fucking crazy. I also feel like you kind of woke up from being a little bit of a workaholic after everything. Yeah. Yeah. You, like, yeah, you were living your life afterwards. I love that for you.
Yeah. Yeah, I think, like, because it kind of just showed, I think it's a reminder that, you know, anything can happen at any point, and I think I'm much more open to that. So, like, smaller things don't really, like, stress me out or anything like that. Or if it does, then I'll just kind of, I don't know, I have different processes of dealing with it all, but either way, I think it was, like, a reminder of, like, you know, you never know really what's going to happen. So I wanted to go to Thailand for a very long time when I was younger. And then I was like, I'm just going to do it when I can do it, because COVID was still going on. So I went in 2022, and I just went for a few months because then I missed everyone. But but I went, and it was a great time, and it was like me just traveling on my own. It gave me a lot more confidence in who I am as a person. And also I was able to work out, and I was able to nourish my body, and I was able to take care of it, because there's a lot that the body goes through when you go through something like this. So, you know, being able to do that is a blessing. Being able to make memories with the people you love is a blessing. It's all a blessing. So it changed my mind for sure in a lot of ways. And it's not to say like it's the right way or anything, but that was my, yeah, just fuck it. It's not to say I'm not working now, okay? I'm not working. But now I'm working in something that, like, I wanted to always be. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. So, and it gave me the courage to do that, right? And I also had very supportive people in my life who gave me that platform to be able to do that. So it's not just a me thing. It's about everyone in my life. And I've had very difficult conversations with my parents. I think I went to therapy right after everything had happened because I didn't know how to deal with it all on my own. And, eventually through therapy, I was able to have very difficult conversations with people around me, mainly my parents, mainly like other people like who I needed to have those conversations with. And it brought us so much closer, like our family is so much closer now, and we are just able to hopefully now deal with things in a healthier manner. We're not perfect, but like it's still better than what it was before. So everything in hindsight, it was a shitty thing that happened, but out of all that shittiness, there was a lot of good that came as well, and yeah. How was it for you when you like heard about it all? Sorry, were you gonna say something else?
No, I was just gonna say that like sometimes people want to like make it this whole thing of rah like, oh, it was an enlightening experience and it changed my life, like although it was hard, like whatever. I like that you do still say like it sucked. It was terrible. Yeah. And we got over it and good things came from it, but it did suck. And I think that's something that's easy to fall into too. It's like if you're going through it, I can imagine if people who are also going through it just keep saying, oh, it woke me up and I'm a different person and this is all great and this, that, and the other. Like that would be so... If you don't feel that way, I can see how that'd be like paralyzing, where it's just, fuck, like, am I supposed to feel that way and why don't I feel that way? How do they do that every day? And I think that's something to remember. Like, you can have good days, you can have bad days, and it's okay to acknowledge both. And like, it is a shitty situation, so call it what it is, and that's okay, because you are going through it and it sucks. So
how was it for you when you found out and stuff?
It was a lot. I think something that I kind of struggled with was like I didn't know how to be there for you, because we'd like have these conversations and it was a lot of like trying to not talk about it but also talk about it at the same time and talk about it enough where it was like, I'm just checking in, I want to see where you're at, and I also know that's not a conversation you want to have the whole time. And it did suck that it was during COVID, and I think if it wasn't during COVID, it would be a very different situation. Like, everybody could see you differently, and we'd see you a lot more and stuff like that, and I think that was a little hard. But yeah, it was no, it was, it's insane. Like, it's insane to see our parents and stuff as well through it. It's a wild thing. I don't know what to say. I can't. Because I know if I talk about it more, I'll just start crying, and I just can't do it. I don't want to do that. So, but yeah, like, honestly, you did make it a lot easier on all of us, even though, like, that should not have been your job. But I think you did everything you could to make everybody else feel comfortable and okay and normal. And, yeah, it was crazy. Like, you'd just call her, check in with her, and she'd be like, no, tell me about your life. Like, she'd be like, stop it. Okay, so, like, tell me the tea. And it's like, okay, but, like, yeah, she literally made it so much easier, which sometimes was a little bit, it's like, hello? I know, it's like, are we, like, do we know what's happening, or did we forget? It was cool. It was cool to see you afterwards, too, like, living your best life.
Yeah.
And, yeah, like, you've always been the person who, I've looked up to my whole life, because you're my person, you're my best friend, and, you've always been, like, oh my god, you know! I've been doing so good this whole time.
You were really good.
But yeah, no, you've always been that person for me. So I was just saying, I look up to you and shit. But I do. And I think it was nice to just see you back to normal and like doing things that we've like talked about our whole lives. Like, I'm going to solo travel here and like do all these things. And
I was singing for so long and I never did it. And I was so disappointed that I never did it. And I was at a point in life where I was like, it's not going to happen anymore. And then life happened and then it happened.
Yeah, and I thought it was so cool. And while she was there, like, yeah, it was cool just to see it all play out the way that it was supposed to play out. It's rough for all parties in the situation. You obviously more than anybody else.
Not really. So I actually think my parents got it the worst.
Oh, yeah. I can see that.
Yeah. So because when it was happening to me, I was like, okay, it's happening. But you just are dealing with it. You're more in a survival mode and you're like, okay, whatever, like you deal with it because you have to deal with it. And then, but you don't see yourself all the time. Now, when I was in front of mirrors and I was looking very different than what I look like now, it was obviously hard to see that. And then, I have moments, but your parents are seeing that all the time, right? And then they're seeing you go through the ups and downs of it. And then they see that you're also trying to fake it for them. And then you're seeing that they are trying to do all this stuff for you so that you feel more comfortable and all of that. And it's like you're their child and they can't do anything. And I think the worst feeling for them is that they feel helpless and they can't really just make it go away. So I do think it's probably harder. And actually, I know it's harder for them compared to like the person who is dealing with it. We have our physical stuff that obviously affects us emotionally, mentally, all of that. But for a parent seeing their child go through it, I think it's very, very difficult. So, yeah. And even for like parents, like when I think they need their own support groups and stuff like that, like you need to feel what you're feeling is justified, what you're feeling is relevant, not relevant. Valid. Not relevant. Relevant to trends. It's harder for them. It's hard as a family to go through it, but I was lucky to even have family to go through it. So, there's always two sides to every coin. Yeah, which is you look at the bad stuff and you take that in and you understand that whatever happened. I also don't remember a lot of the stuff because I think my brain has just shut that off in terms of like protecting myself. So there are a lot of parts that I don't really necessarily remember. So that's it. I hope everyone just, I guess, no matter how young you are, no matter how old you are, check your body. Make sure you're feeling okay. Make sure whatever it is, no matter what it is, you have to take care of yourself. And I hope that this just like helps with that. I didn't know that there was a point to making a video like this, and I still don't know. But if this can even help one person, and you kind of make sure you're on top of it just for your health and just making sure you're good, you're not just doing it for yourself, you're doing it for yourself, your family, your friends, anyone that you love. So just be on top of it because precaution and prevention over.
Let's be precautious and prevent badness.
There you go. That's how we're going to wrap this up.
Do you have any resources or anything that you probably put down below, I guess?
Yeah, I'll put some stuff down below. Just anything that can help you out. Even the place that I went to like meet other people that go through it. But also, it's just when you're young, it can be harder to like feel like you can talk to anyone about it. So even if you do want to chat, feel not so alone, let me know. And I'll put the Instagrams and stuff like that downstairs. Precaution and prevention. No, precaution
prevents badness. Precaution prevents badness. That's on PPB. Wow! Thank you so much for being here. We hope that this did something for you. Love your family. Hug them. Your own made family too, like not only your family, like if you hate your family, then love your friends who are your family now.
Yeah, wow, this is another PPB moment.
PPB for life. But we do appreciate you. Like, comment, subscribe. Follow us on Instagram at
ALMST there.
And thank you for watching this through.
Bye.
Bye.